She ended the relationship on a Tuesday. By Friday morning, he'd reclaimed the car from her driveway, the furniture from her apartment, and even the designer dog he'd bought her for their anniversary. No drama, no begging, no second chances. Just a meticulously executed plan that left her standing in an empty apartment wondering how the man she'd just dumped had legally stripped her life down to the bare walls in 72 hours. This isn't a breakup story. This is a masterclass in cold, calculated payback.
Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go.
The silence in the wake of the breakup text was the first warning sign, though Jessica Thomas didn't recognize it as such. She had expected Alexander Nelson to spiral. She had braced herself for the barrage of desperate voicemails, the pleading texts, perhaps even a tearful knock at the door of the penthouse apartment they had shared for 2 years. She had her script ready. I need space. I need to find myself. It's not you, it's me. But Alexander didn't send a single reply. The read receipt on her phone was the only acknowledgement that he had received the message. He simply vanished into the digital ether. Jessica felt a surge of relief mixed with a strange, prickling unease. She poured herself a glass of wine, a vintage Cabernet Alexander had bought for her promotion celebration, and sat on the sprawling Italian leather sectional that Alexander had imported because she liked the specific shade of cream. She called her friends to announce she was finally free. She told them he was taking it surprisingly well. She didn't know that while she was toasting to her single life, Alexander was sitting in his office across town, not with a drink, but with a spreadsheet. He wasn't mourning the relationship, he was auditing it. The first strike happened on Wednesday morning, less than 16 hours after the breakup. Jessica walked out of the lobby, oversized sunglasses on, ready to drive to yoga. She reached into her bag for the keys to the Range Rover, the one Alexander had surprised her with on her 26th birthday. She clicked the unlock button. Nothing happened. She looked up, expecting to see the obsidian black SUV parked in its reserved spot, number 402. The spot was empty. Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in her chest. She spun around, scanning the street, assuming she had parked it elsewhere. Then she saw the grease stain on the concrete. Fresh. She sprinted to the concierge, breathless. "My car!" Jessica gasped. "Someone stole my car from the garage." The concierge, a young man named Tyler Perez, who usually flirted with her, looked down at his logbook, avoiding her eyes. He looked uncomfortable. "Miss Thomas, it wasn't stolen. A recovery team came by about an hour ago. They had the master keys and the title." "Recovery team?" she screeched. "That's my car. Alexander gave it to me." "Actually," a calm voice said from behind her. Jessica whipped around to see a man in a sharp gray suit holding a briefcase. It wasn't Alexander. It was David Jones, Alexander's corporate attorney. "Technically, Mr. Nelson allowed you to use the vehicle. The title, the insurance, and the financing are entirely in his name. Since the relationship is terminated, so are the perks." He handed her a white envelope. "The Uber app is quite reliable this time of morning, I hear." Jessica stood frozen in the lobby as David Jones walked away, the click of his heels echoing like gunshots. She ripped open the envelope. It wasn't a letter. It was a copy of the vehicle registration with Alexander's name highlighted in neon yellow and a single sticky note that read, "Asset 1, retrieved." The rage hit her before the fear did. She pulled out her phone and dialed Alexander. Straight to voicemail. She texted him a string of furious messages, demanding he return the car, calling him petty, calling him insane. But as she thumbed the screen, she noticed something else. The service on her phone cut out. The bars dropped to 0. No service. She stared at the device. The iPhone 15 Pro Max. Another gift. She stormed back up to the penthouse, her heart hammering against her ribs. She needed Wi-Fi to call him. She burst through the front door, ready to scream into the void, but the silence that greeted her was heavy, thick with dust. She stopped in the hallway. The living room looked wrong. It took her brain a second to process the visual data. The Italian leather sectional? Gone. The 85-inch OLED TV mounted on the wall? Gone. The wall was bare, save for the ugly bracket holes and dangling wires. The vintage Persian rug that tied the room together? Gone. The room echoed as she walked into it. It wasn't just the big things. The Dyson air purifier, the expensive floor lamps, even the decorative coffee table books about fashion and architecture. All gone. She ran to the bedroom. Her closet door was open. She gasped. It wasn't empty, but it was decimated. The shelves where her designer bags usually sat, Chanel, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, were bare wood. The jewelry box on the vanity was missing. On the bed, which was now just a mattress on the floor because the hand-carved bed frame had been disassembled and removed, sat another white envelope. Asset list, household and personal effects. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a manifesto of petty precision. It was an itemized list of every single item Alexander had purchased over the last 24 months, accompanied by dates and prices. Chanel Classic Flat Bag, $10,200, retrieved. Cartier Love Bracelet, $7,500, retrieved. Dyson Airwrap, $600, retrieved. Espresso Machine, $2,500, retrieved. At the bottom of the list in bold font, possession does not equal ownership. Thank you for safeguarding my investments. He can't do this, she whispered, her voice trembling. This is theft. She ran to the kitchen looking for the landline, but the base station was gone too. She grabbed her laptop from the counter, thankfully she had bought that one herself, and connected to the building's guest Wi-Fi. She searched for legal advice on gifts. The search results were a mixed bag of conditional gifts and civil disputes, but Jessica didn't care about the law. She cared about the humiliation. She was going to burn him down. She logged into Instagram, ready to post a story that would ruin his reputation. She was going to show the world the empty apartment, the mattress on the floor, the absolute insanity of a man who takes back a hairdryer. But when she tried to log in, the screen refreshed. Password incorrect. She tried again. Password incorrect. Her stomach dropped. Her email. She tried to log into her Gmail. Password changed 14 minutes ago. Then she remembered. 2 months ago, she complained about being bad with passwords, and Alexander, the tech-savvy problem solver, had set up a password manager for her. A family account, which he admitted he hadn't just taken the furniture, he had locked her out of her digital life. A notification popped up on her laptop screen, an email from a new address, closure@nelsonholdings.com. She clicked it. There was no text in the body, just a video attachment. She hit play. The video was a screen recording of Alexander scrolling through her private DMs, the DMs that she had been sending to her ex-boyfriend, and the flirtatious messages she exchanged with a personal trainer named Kyle while Alexander was paying for the sessions. The video ended with a black screen and white text. I know about the girls' trips to Miami. I know about Kyle. I'm not taking back gifts, Jessica. I'm taking back the life you leased with my money while you were auditioning my replacement. She slammed the laptop shut. The room felt like it was shrinking. This wasn't a breakup anymore. It was a siege. She was trapped in a glass tower with no car, no phone service, no luxury goods, and a dark secret that he was holding over her head like a guillotine blade. But Jessica Thomas was not one to fold easily. She was scrappy. She had survived worse than a scorned boyfriend. She grabbed her purse, a Michael Kors she had owned before him, thank goodness, and stormed out of the apartment. She needed a lawyer. She needed to file a police report. The precinct was chaotic. She waited 3 hours to speak to an officer. When she finally sat down with Officer Robert Williams, she laid it all out. The theft, the harassment, the hacking. Officer Williams listened, taking notes, his face unreadable. Okay, Miss Thomas, did you share the apartment? Yes, but he moved out. He's gone. But he came back and robbed me. And do you have receipts for these items? Proof of purchase in your name? No, he bought them as gifts. You don't ask for a receipt when someone gives you a necklace. Officer Williams sighed, the sound of a man who had seen too many domestic disputes. Ma'am, unless you can prove those items were unconditional gifts, it's a civil matter. If he paid for them, and he has the receipts, and you were cohabiting, we can't go kick down his door and take a TV back. You need to sue him in civil court. He took my car. Is your name on the title? No, but then it's his car, ma'am. Jessica walked out of the police station into the blinding afternoon sun. She felt exposed, naked. She hailed a cab, realizing she had to use physical cash because her credit card, an authorized user card on Alexander's Amex Platinum, was undoubtedly canceled. She returned to the apartment building as the sun began to set. She just wanted to hold Barnaby, her French bulldog, the one thing that loved her unconditionally, the one living thing in that cold, empty apartment. She opened the door. Barnaby, Mommy's home! Silence. No skittering of claws on the hardwood, no snorting. She ran to the spot where his crate usually sat. Gone. The bowls, gone. The leash, gone. She fell to her knees, the first sob finally ripping through her throat. Not the dog. He couldn't take the dog. That was cruel. That was evil. Her laptop pinged. Another email. Subject, custody.
She fell to her knees, the first sob finally ripping through her throat. Not the dog. He couldn't take the dog. That was cruel. That was evil. Her laptop pinged. Another email. Subject, custody. She opened it through tear-blurred eyes. It was a PDF. A breeder's contract. Purchaser, Alexander Nelson. And below that, a veterinary bill from last month, paid by Alexander Nelson. And the note. Barnaby is safe at the kennel. He will be staying with my sister in Vermont. He deserves a yard, not a chew toy in a high-rise he's not allowed to live in. Jessica stared at the screen. He's not allowed to live in. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The apartment. She scrambled to find the lease agreement. She kept it in the kitchen drawer, the drawer that had been dumped out onto the counter. She rifled through the papers. Takeout menus, flyers, coupons. No lease. But she remembered what he said when they moved in. I'll handle the paperwork, babe. You just pick the curtains. She had never signed the lease. Friday morning arrived with the gray, dull light of a reckoning. Jessica hadn't slept. She was sitting on the floor, wrapped in a blanket she had salvaged from the linen closet, waiting. She knew he was coming. The deadline was up. At 9 a.m. sharp, the lock beeped. The door swung open. Alexander Nelson walked in. He looked impeccable. He was wearing a navy suit, crisp and tailored, looking like he had just stepped out of a boardroom meeting. He didn't look angry. He didn't look sad. He looked indifferent. That was the worst part. He looked at her, sitting on the floor of the empty living room, with the same detached interest one might show a piece of litter on the sidewalk. Behind him stood two men. One was David Jones, the lawyer. The other was a large man in a building maintenance uniform. Alexander, Jessica croaked, standing up. She tried to muster some dignity, smoothing her wrinkled clothes. You can't do this. You can't just strip my life away because you're hurt. Alexander didn't speak. He just looked at David. David stepped forward. Miss Thomas, you are currently trespassing. Trespassing? I live here. I've lived here for 2 years. As a guest, David corrected. The lease for this unit is held by Nelson Global Ventures. It is corporate housing. Your guest privileges were revoked via email on Tuesday at 5 p.m. We allowed you a 72-hour grace period to vacate the premises. That period expired 5 minutes ago. Jessica looked at Alexander. You're kicking me out on the street? After everything? Alexander finally spoke. His voice was low, smooth, and terrifyingly calm. I didn't kick you out, Jessica. You left, remember? You wanted space. I'm just giving you the ultimate version of it. He walked over to the window, looking out at the city skyline. You see, you made a calculation. You thought you could upgrade. You thought you could keep the lifestyle I provided while test driving a new boyfriend on my dime. You thought I was a safety net. He turned back to her, his eyes cold. I'm not a safety net. I'm the architect. And when the tenant violates the terms of the agreement, the architect condemns the building. He nodded to the maintenance man. Change the codes. Wait, Jessica screamed. Where am I supposed to go? You took my money, my car, my dog? I took my money, my car, my dog, Alexander corrected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. He tossed it onto the floor at her feet. It landed with a soft thud. What is that? She asked. The earrings you were wearing when we met, cheap cubic zirconia, and the bus pass you had in your wallet that night. I kept them as a souvenir of how far we'd come. Consider them a starter kit for your new life. He checked his watch, a Patek Philippe she knew cost more than her college tuition. You have 10 minutes to remove your personal effects, clothing purchased with your own funds and toiletries. Anything left after that will be disposed of. Jessica stood there trembling with a mixture of hatred and despair. She wanted to claw his eyes out. She wanted to scream. But she saw the security camera in the corner of the room, blinking red. He was recording. He wanted a reaction. He wanted the crazy ex-girlfriend footage to protect himself. She bit her tongue until it tasted like copper. She grabbed her duffel bag. She went to the pile of clothes on the floor, the few things she had actually bought with her own salary from her part-time marketing gig, and stuffed them in. She walked to the door, passing Alexander. She stopped, inches from his face. You're a monster, she hissed. I'm a businessman, and you were a bad investment. Close the door on your way out. Jessica Thomas walked out into the hallway. The heavy door clicked shut behind her, the electronic lock whirring as the code was scrambled instantly. She stood in the hallway holding a duffel bag of old clothes and a pair of fake diamond earrings. She pulled out her phone to call Tyler, the new guy. She needed a ride. She needed a place to stay. She dialed his number. It rang once, twice, then a click. Hey, Jess, Tyler's voice answered. Oh my God, Tyler, you have to help me. He took everything. I'm on the street. Can you come get me? There was a long pause on the other end. Whoa, Jess, Tyler said, his voice sounding distant, guarded. I saw the video. What video? The one circling on Twitter. #TheAudit. The guy posted the receipts, Jess. The cheating DMs, the whole thing. Look, I can't be involved in this drama. My brand can't take that kind of heat. Tyler? Sorry, Jess. Good luck. The line went dead. Jessica stared at the phone. She opened Twitter, and there it was, trending. A thread by an anonymous account detailing the financial breakdown of a betrayal. Millions of views, thousands of comments cheering for the man who took it all back. She sank to the floor of the hallway, the reality finally setting in. She hadn't just lost the breakup. She hadn't just lost the stuff. She had been erased. Inside the apartment, Alexander picked up the single glass of wine he had poured for himself. He walked to the center of the empty room, looking at the dust outlines where the furniture used to be. It was clean. It was empty. It was perfect. He took a sip, pulled out his phone, and typed a single text to his assistant. Project reset complete. Listing goes live tomorrow. He turned off the lights, leaving the apartment in darkness, and walked out without looking back.